Excellent. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started on time and let's go through, get everyone introduced. You see some friendly faces in the webinar today. We're going to make some introductions and then get straight into it and get started. Quick touch on legal. If we do happen to talk about anything future focused, that's pretty much what this is talking about. Nothing too special, but just no commitment to promises on future focused products essentially, or changes to Smartsheet. Excellent. Welcome again. We're going to hear from two people from InfoSpark today, first being Antonio and secondly, Lindsay. For those of you who haven't met InfoSpark yet or haven't had an interaction with a partner, InfoSpark are actually a platinum solution partner with Smartsheet, which is our top tier for partners. They're based out of South Australia and they actually won Partner of the Year last year, which is a huge achievement for the ANZ region. I would definitely recommend reaching out to them and getting introduced or having a conversation. They're very capable and have a ton of experience in this industry and have worked with lots of different businesses in the space. And they're just all around great people to work with. So I definitely encourage you to get in touch. Cover off the agenda real quick. We've gone through the welcome. We'll get Antonio and Lindsay introduced shortly. They'll go through some of the main solutions and common problems that we see across businesses, provide some really neat insights and give you some best practice tips as well. From there, we'll have an open Q&A session. As we go through the webinar today, you're more than welcome to jump into the little Q&A button at the bottom. Add questions as they come up, and then we can address those at the end of the webinar. We'll go through some closing remarks after that, and then we'll close out the webinar at 11:30. If we do have a large volume of questions, we'll continue answering those, and if you need to drop off, that's totally fine. Tiny bit of housekeeping before we get started. Feel free to use the Zoom chat, say hello. We've got lots of the team here today, so you're welcome to have a chat in there. If you do want to ask a question, it'd be great if you could put it in the Q&A button that you see at the bottom. And then if you did want to speak in the Q&A section towards the end, more than welcome to raise your hand and we can get you to jump in. That being said, though, I'll hand over to Antonio and get you all started.
Thanks. Hey, everyone. Welcome. I think it's next slide. Yeah. Coming up. There we go. Hey, I wanted to start with a quick, just a little bit of a background and an overview of, kind of why you're here, what we're going to discuss, and what we see. Why you're here? A lot of clients, when they start using Smartsheet, it's to replace something like that whiteboard you see on the screen. We have a lot of clients who are managing production processes, and scheduling work and work outputs using a whiteboard, post-it notes, running pieces of paper around a factory or a warehouse. Smartsheet, solves that, but then what we hear from our customers a lot is, okay, I'm using Smartsheet. I've had, a net benefit from doing that, but I don't know what I don't know. We hear that all the time from Smartsheet users, and today is about showing what we've learned at InfoSpark over many years of successfully rolling out these kind of systems, to kind of share some insights on what we see as the best practices to run a production system efficiently in Smartsheet. And an important note is when we say production, we just mean you don't have to be a large-scale manufacturer. We just mean you take an order, you make something, and you send it out the door. That could be making some kind of widget. You could be building a truck trailer. You could be manufacturing a kitchen. You could be making windows. You could be making hats. Whatever it is, it's all applicable. See those as kind of production or manufacturing processes. Even if you don't manufacture, if you import and distribute, it's actually a similar kind of workflow. So what we see from a lot of our customers, and the typical pain points are poor information between departments. The dispatch guys or the warehouse guys don't know what orders need to go out when. The sales team have no visibility of where orders are in the production process. So when the customers ring them, they can't give updates. We also see a lot of, a lot of administrative bloat of, there's a lot of information silos between, potentially the accounts team and the dispatch team and the manufacturing team of what orders have actually been sent out the door, or this order's in production, but we can't go ahead. Has a deposit been paid? What's happened there? So those are typical friction points. And I'm sure some of you are probably nodding your head in agreement that some of those sound like relatable issues. What we see as the outcomes of using, a good implementation of Smartsheet is to eliminate those information silos. So all teams within the organization we can use Smartsheet reports, so they have visibility of the information that's important to them when they need it. Also, we see something really important is resourcing and managing your production schedule. With Smartsheet, and it's actually an example Lindsay's going to show, will enable people to see the workload, see the backlog. Something we hear a lot from clients is customers are ringing me and wanting to give us an order. We're very busy, but I can't. It's hard to know when we can actually start that job and then we could potentially finish it. So forecasting is really something important, and Smartsheet can really enable that. What we hear a lot as well is enabling, Smartsheet enables them to have everything all in one place. We can intake a sales, sales can intake an order. It can go through a design and a manufacturing and a dispatch process all within Smartsheet without people having to hop between programs and context switch. And, at the end of the day, that's why I've kind of got that money symbol there. We want your customers to be happier because they've got access to better information. Your resourcing and your efficiency of your actual manufacturing processes is improved, which at the end of the day saves everyone time, saves money, and leads to more efficient production processes. So that's a little bit of background and kind of the outcomes achieved. If Dan takes us to the next slide, I'll talk in a little bit more detail of, these are the outcomes and these are the pain points, but how is this actually managed? So we've learned in our journey, and you guys are welcome to ask questions later, and we're going to explore these two types of production. But really the best way to apply production management in Smartsheet is with two distinct styles. One is called process production, one is called project production. Now, if you're a real Smartsheet guru, I'll explain in a little bit more detail. Process production is a typical, each job or order or project is a row of data in Smartsheet, and you use various columns and various statuses, and it flows through in quite a smooth way from end to end. Project production is a bit different, and each kind of job, order, whatever you guys call it, is a project, and it's got its own kind of work breakdown structure, and there's robust processes that take place within inside that. The key differentiator and what we hear a lot is, when should I use one or the other? The key component we really see is when you need project production, when you're doing things that require different stakeholders within your organization or external to be doing things in parallel. So a good example of, process production is the sales team receives an order, they put it in the system, it goes through to manufacturing, they schedule it, we make 200 caps, that goes to the dispatch team and they get sent to the client. Project production is a customer is interested in this piece of machinery, we need to design it, so there's a design phase. So the designers are working in parallel with the sales team, there's multiple things happening at the same time. It can't progress to a specific stage unless other work is done. An external contractor has to be engaged for a certain compliance. So it's more of a robust work breakdown structure rather than a seamless kind of flow. That's kind of a key differentiator. Also, as we've got the notes here, it's less predictable. If you need more flexibility within the production process, project production makes a lot more sense. Some examples of clients that we have using that are like kitchen manufacturers or foundry and hot metal pouring who are doing specific design work. Particularly design adds a lot of element to that. So a key differentiator there is that level of standardization. What's cool about this as well is we have a lot of clients who use a bit of both. So you can have your actual production be process production, but then use project production for some of the front-end design work or for new product development and things like that. So you can actually have a bit of a hybrid of both, but we think our clients that have the most success have a distinct style of how production is managed, and then that becomes standardized across the board. So I'm going to start with a little bit of an example of what project production looks like, and then I'll hand it over to Lindsay and he'll show you process production in action, and then we'll answer all of your questions. So I'm going to share my screen now. Thanks, Dan. Typically project production uses Smartsheet Control Center, if you're familiar with it, because it automates the launch of your projects. So one of the great things about project production and where it's often used is you can have a more complex sales process at the front of it. So when you receive a new lead or inquiry, it can go into a pool or an intake. And then what Control Center can do can automatically spin up a sheet or your estimating sheet. This is popular with our clients in the engineering space when they have to make quite robust products. So they need to have quite robust quotes. So this enables you to have a very complex quoting process that's actually handled within Smartsheet. You can see the amount of content here. And all of this, you need to put your inputs in and then it's automatically summarized. So you've got all of that detail to progress that deal forward. And you can see we've got some really nice reporting. So you can use Smartsheet as a bit of a lightweight CRM in this regard. You may still use a traditional CRM, but you do have the ability to create estimates inside Smartsheet itself. And you can see extracting some really good reporting from that. From there, the project is executed, and then Control Center will also provide you all of the assets you would need to execute that project. You've got a schedule or a traditional work breakdown structure. You may need document registers or design kind of registers where you can collaborate, various reports and things like that. So you've got a series of Smartsheet assets that empower you to deliver that product or that job. And obviously within Smartsheet, all of that can be tailored to you. All of that information is then summarized from a reporting point. So you've got a lens on the sales performance, but also your production life cycle when projects are going to be delivered. So you get some good cash flow projections. You can also understand that end-to-end life cycle. You can see how many projects or jobs are in a design phase, how many are in a production phase, how many are in an installation or dispatch or delivery phase. And again, guys, I've just got a lightweight example to show you some really powerful data. This is all demonstration data that you can be achieved. We can see we've got the operations phase, the pre-production, production, deliveries, installation. So you can, this enables quite a robust and flexible but interconnected production process. So that's a little example there of project production. I'm going to hand over to Lindsay now. And Lindsay, if you could show us through process production.
Yeah, sure. Cheers, thanks. Cool. So yeah, what I wanted to go through here, and this applies to both project and process, but you'll see it kind of demonstrated through process production, is what we see as kind of those 5 pain points for when production's not working properly and how Smartsheet addresses that. So the first one is people who are working in their production sheet. Maybe they've got a spreadsheet and maybe they're even using Smartsheet and it's a sheet with lots and lots of columns. So it looks a bit like this, like every part of their production process has a column or a series of columns for it, and it's a real nightmare to work within. So big spreadsheets are hard work. And so what I've shown here is this is a dashboard that just distills what's happening in that one sheet all the way up, and through the rest of this demo, I'll show where Smartsheet reports gets used. So yeah, first tip would be make sure you're using Smartsheet reports and dashboards instead of just working out of sheets. Second is backlog, which Antonio referred to. So this report has that big sheet that I just quickly went through before. This report is from a manufacturer planning point of view, just the columns and rows that a planner would need to see. And what we can see here is we've got the different, in this case, we've got the operators. So this could be, in your business, this could be equipment that gets used in that there's a constraint on, or teams. In this case, we've got the actual team operators. And we can see here for each day, so we're looking at each day here, we can see how much capacity do they have to produce to be productive. And so you can see Antonio's got 50 units of capacity, and he's got 39 units of work associated with him for today. And so it goes on and on. When you build out that whole schedule then over time, then what you'll get is a clear understanding of, well, when does our capacity open up again? So we can see for this job here, we can say, all right, Antonio's got some time on the 23rd. So let's put in that job's going to happen on the 23rd, and Antonio is going to be the one that does it. So when a customer's saying, well, when would you be able to get my job done if I put the order in today? You can be able to say, I can tell you very accurately when that's going to happen. Okay, so the next is, in terms of tips and then pain points, is internal visibility of orders. So let's say this is the report that's set up for dispatch, and dispatch is looking at this order here and saying, how do I know when all the elements of that order have actually been manufactured? When are we planning on having that each item manufactured? Who's involved in actually doing that? So in someone that's before they've moved into Smartsheet, that's done by a lot of paperwork and phone calls and emails being sent, or walking onto the factory floor to ask questions. What we can see here is that the dispatch team can look through, they can see, all right, here's all the orders that we've got, all the lines of manufacture we've got for this order. These 3 items have already been manufactured. This one's still scheduled to happen, and that's Lindsay. So I know I can just reach out to Lindsay to find out what's going on if I need to find out when that's happening, but I can see that's going to be happening today. That's the dispatch view. From my view as an operator, this is what I get to see. So I get to say, okay, for today, this is what I need to be working on. And when I've finished doing that, I can move that to manufactured and save that. The dispatch team, likewise, they can, when they look at this report again, they can say, this one's all finished now. So that communication around when and has different things happened is really clear. The next part is the customer's view. So it's all well and good to have all this communication happening within the business, but what about the most important part of the business is the customer. So this is where dynamic view fits in. So we can see here, I haven't refreshed this yet, from a customer that's looking at that same order, they can see here that, yep, okay, 3 parts of my 4 lines have been ordered. If they come in and refresh this, then they can see, okay, that order's finished now, it's all manufactured. When the dispatch team goes and dispatches it, the customer can come in and have a look at it. Now, with some of the customers that we've worked with, this is where they actually get the biggest ROI, because all of those, it's twofold. All of those inquiries that used to come into the admin team around, oh, where's my order up to? When are you going to be doing it? They are able to be the customer can just log into their own portal and see that. So the customer's actually happier with that. The second element of that being beneficial is this is an experience that's somewhat unique in the industry. And so the stickiness of that customer saying, I'm going to actually keep using that supplier for my manufacturing work is increased, because they can't get that experience necessarily from other competitors. And then the final part that I wanted to talk about was the back office admin effort. And so what we've got here is a customer service view. So this is all that same data, that same production data. And in the customer service view, we can see which jobs have been dispatched and they've been invoiced. And this is where our connection through to Xero can be really handy. But so we're just looking at all these orders, all these invoices that have been automatically generated. So there's been an automated workflow that said that job's now invoiced, and that invoice is now in Xero. So you can see there was a click through to Xero, and then from this view, you can also see the information coming back from Xero. So which have been approved to be sent out, which of these invoices have actually been paid. So it's very good from a time point of view. You don't have to be jumping into your accounting system all the time to get up-to-date information. And likewise, you can be providing some of that accounting information to people in the team that you don't want to actually give them access to your accounting system. And I've shown this with Xero today, but we work with dozens of different accounting products. So no matter what you're using, we can work with it. And that were the 5 tips.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Lindsay. Lindsay, Antonio, I think just for people that are watching that are seeing the titles or the terminology that you're using, if they're sitting there going, I like what I'm seeing, but it just doesn't sound exactly how we run things in the business or how we talk about it internally. What advice would you have for them, and is it customizable to what they actually need?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Dan. And like that's something hard about demonstrating is, we have specific solutions and then sometimes the language doesn't look quite right or it's hard to resonate. I think that's the important thing about Smartsheet is it can be very customized to your particular needs. And I keep saying production or manufacturing. You guys might call it something completely different. Don't be scared by the names or titles or anything there. It's about the workflow. If you make something or import something and have customers and you send it somewhere, it's applicable to you and everything can be adjusted to your particular needs. I think that's the beauty of this. In my demonstration earlier, I used some examples that we transformed from previous customers. There was a foundry in there was a kitchen manufacturer in there was a construction business in there was a paint distribution business, and there was a little bit of a pharmaceutical manufacturer. So you wouldn't know that looking at it, but all those components are kind of blended into that. So yeah, really good question. And I think this is why it's important to have these conversations. We want to provide some inspiration. And if even a tiny part of that you think is kind of relevant, we can discuss further and how it could kind of be molded around your business.
Perfect. Thanks, Tones. It's a really good segue, actually. So if you would like to discuss it further, InfoSpark are actually for the month of April. If you'd like to reach out to them, scan this QR code and fill in some details. They're willing to partner with you on a free 1-hour consultation, which is a really excellent offering, and I would definitely encourage you to get in touch with the team. If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to Antonio directly or myself or any of your Smartsheet account managers as well. Great. So that leads us into open Q&A. If anyone in the chat has any specific questions, we've had a couple come through already. Feel free to pop them in the Q&A, or if you'd like to have a chat, you're welcome to raise your hand as well. Just to kick things off, I've got one here, Tones. I feel like my business has both process and project management. How do I decide on the route to take?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a longer conversation to answer that. The key is how much work has to happen in parallel, I think that's the key differentiator. If you have jobs that just go from one station to the next station or the next part of your organization, then process manufacturing makes a lot of sense. But if you have a lot of work happening in parallel, generally project base makes a bit more sense. So I think that's the key differentiator. It's not always true, but hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Thank you. We've got a question here from Jesse Scott. So with the dynamic view customer report, does the customer need to log in with a Smartsheet account, or is this simply accessible by URL with no login?
Oh, that's a good question. Lindsay, I think you'll have to take that one for me.
Yeah, so with dynamic view, you need to anticipate who's going to be having access, and that's really around the security of being able to have a customer see their own jobs. So yeah, there's going to be a login involved. What I can say about that though is we've got a video that's going around at the moment for what we did with link powder coating, and they've got very large number of customers. They were able to bring all their regular customers into that customer portal type thing in dynamic view with really no resistance at all. So getting that account set up and getting them onto dynamic view, it's a nice, easy app to use. It is a scalable option.
I'll flag as well, they don't need a paid Smartsheet account. Is probably a key differentiator there. They will just be a free collaborator inside your account. Yeah, there's also options, that was a customer portal in Dynamic View, which gives you a lot more granular control and security controls. You also do have the option, which we didn't explore today, of publishing reports and dashboards for your customers to view. And in that instance, they just have a web link where they can hop in and have a look. So depends on your individual client needs.
Excellent. Love it. We've got another question from Carlos. So how do you integrate Xero with Smartsheet for people to see the invoice without having access to the accounting system? Also, depending on the Xero status of the invoice, will automatically update Smartsheet status as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So we synchronize the Xero data into Smartsheet, and then within Smartsheet, you have a lot more control over who has access to what data. So typically in that example, we would use kind of a sheet and have cell links between a sheet people have access to or specific users have access to, and actual master database in Smartsheet that holds all the Xero data. So then you can have quite granular control over what information is surfaced. I think that answered it was a long question, Carlos, so I think that answered it. But you can also, if you're curious, Carlos, you can flick me an email afterwards and I'm happy to have a chat with you about it.
Awesome. And another one from Carlos, reporting to clients, what's the difference between dashboards and Dynamic View?
Oh, that's a good question. Dynamic View, something that we didn't show. Dynamic View, you can actually, a dashboard is kind of, if you're presenting a dashboard to a client, it's quite a static, it's not static, it's updated in real time, but they can't input any information. Dynamic View can actually enable you to give your client some control over cell editing. You could actually say, oh, on this particular cell, they can edit this one. So they might, be able to put in a purchase order number or something like that. That's probably a key differentiator. Dashboard is generally summarized information. A Dynamic View would enable you to give a client access to kind of more real granular information.
Yeah, I'll chip in my 2 cents there as well. With dashboards, you typically need to share all the underlying data with a client, so sheets and reports. So if you don't want to do that and you just want to have them access specific information, as Antonio's mentioned, that's where Dynamic View comes in. You don't have to share underlying sheets and reports to get the visibility or data that you want to give to your clients. Excellent. We've got one more final question so far, unless anyone else jumps in. For my billing, I have a COD and account customers. Will Smartsheet be able to support this?
Oh, yeah, good question. We can support that via integration with your accounting system, but also I think that's, what's really important about Smartsheet is its flexibility. As Lindsay showed, we can have different kind of reports and different views, and you can simply kind of enable a tag within Smartsheet, whether they're a COD or an account customer, so that, when we're showing that report for the accounting team, they can have clear visibility on who is what, so that they can take action accordingly. And I think that's what's really important is, as I was showing earlier, we can have the process flow in Smartsheet all the way from sales to the very end. So up front, the salesperson can flag whether it's a COD or an account customer, and that information will flow all the way through the manufacturing process. May not be relevant for the people on the ground making the widgets, but it'll be surfaced for the accounts team at the end.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions that we've got. Carlos and Jesse, thanks so much for chipping in. If anyone else has a question, more than welcome to flick Antonio, myself, or any of your account team an email, and we're definitely happy to have a chat as well. But that's pretty much wrapping us up right on time. So really appreciate everyone joining. We will send out a follow-up email that's going to have a custom dashboard with the questions that were asked and the answers provided, as well as a link to the recording of this webinar as well. So we'll get that to you all very shortly, but thanks again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, Tony and Lindsay as well.
No problem.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Have a great day.